Subscribe to the Lightsport and Ultralight Flyer web video magazine with hundreds and hundreds of videos now online, including airshow coverage, Rotax engine tech tips, Rotax 377, 447, 503, 532, and 582 engine rebuilding videos, each 2 hours in length, propeller maintenance, advisories and repairs, BRS parachute saves, Bing carb updates, and much, much more. Get a yearly subscription at www.ultralightflyer.com. Dan, what have we got here?
I got matching airplanes that don't match. It's sort of similar but different. Whatever that means. I've heard it on TV, so it must be right. We've got the Cheetah LSA and we've got the Rainbow Aircraft Cheetah. Now, they're not the same airplanes, not even close. And if you like one, you might not like the other, but they have some similarities. And one of the most important similarities they have is they both have a great price tag. $59,995, call it $60,000. This one is about $55,000. And those are numbers that 6 years ago, when the LSA community started, we thought that was the right number for an LSA. Well, here they are. So the people that say, no, they're all $130,000 or $150,000, well, we have those too. But we have the prices that we talked about 6 years ago. And even with the progress of inflation, these are still very economical airplanes to buy. How do they do that? Well, they're a little simpler. Let's have a little closer look.
For example, the engine on this airplane?
This one uses the Jabiru, and it uses the 80-horse Jabiru. And on a light aircraft like this, that's really plenty of power, all it needs. And in fact, this one here also uses a little less power than some of them do. But they're both able to operate on that horsepower, which means they burn very little fuel. They don't make so much noise. They don't cost so much. It's all part of the things that distinguishes these airplanes is from a little bit of a distance, they look kind of small, but you come a little closer to this airplane here, and that has quite a giant interior. I don't know exactly how big a person or two of them that could fit in there, but lots of room inside the airplane. And you're right, Dave, there's a lot of similarities. Both tricycle gear, they both use the Jabiru 80 horsepower engine, 85 horsepower engine, and they have that low price we talked about. They also use some other similar things. Let's go have a look at the Cheetah and see. This wing covering, there are people who look at this who come out of the GA world used to metal, composite, and whatnot, and go, what is this stuff? This is like fabric, only it's not dopant fabric like a Cub uses. It's sewn fabric. You can see the stitching on it in various places. They both use the same kind of covering on it. This stuff is actually extremely tough, holds up well, especially they can put a coating on it to help with UV resistance. But even after a few years, if you have to replace them, well, they slip off. Well, not quite as simple as that. They take a little bit of doing, but you can replace the whole wing covers, the whole fuselage covers, and you're back in business again. But one of the big advantages of fabric covered versus composite or metal, which has to be painted, is there's no paint. Now, there may be some UV coating on there and so forth, but paint adds a lot of weight. Somebody out here said 30 pounds of weight on their airplane is just paint. So here you don't have any of that. That's one of the ways these airplanes can be so light, operate on a smaller engine, which burns less fuel, and it's all part of the cost. One thing is to acquire the airplane, but then you got to operate the airplane. And even if somebody just gave you a check and said, here, go buy this airplane, that'd be nice. But then you still got to put fuel in it and maintain it and all the rest. And these airplanes are good about keeping those costs down as well. Construction of these airplanes. We talked about the wing coverings on them. Go underneath the wings, and what you see here, let's look at this one here because you can see it so well. Aluminum tubing, gusset plates. Of course, there's some welded steel components and there's some fiberglass components, but the basic internal structure here is much like we have learned how to build ultralights with for 30 years now. We know these techniques work well, they're inexpensive, they're easily assembled. It's all part of keeping that price down. And as we look over here at the X-Air, this one's also available as an ELSA, meaning that you can buy it in a modified kit form. I say modified because it doesn't have to meet the 51% rule of experimental amateur build. Experimental light sport aircraft gives you some extra privileges once it leaves the factory. It has to conform when it leaves the factory, but after it leaves the factory, an owner can begin to do things as he wishes. Change out instrumentation, change out tires, things of that nature. So you get some extra privilege. What you lose is an ELSA can't be used for flight instruction or rental for hire. But other than that, to an average owner, he doesn't care about those things anyway. So it's all part of keeping the price down and having a fun little airplane to go fly. $60,000, $55,000, pretty much in the same ballpark. Both have financing available. Both have good U.S. representation. This airplane is headquartered in Oregon, but they have dealers in other parts of the country. The Cheetah is headquartered in Wisconsin, very near Oshkosh. And both of them have been in the business for a while, know the game, can give you good support.
So if we want to get more information, Dan, where would we go for these airplanes?
Well, let's look at the one on my right here, this pretty orange job, which is very easy to see in the air, by the way. You go to cheetahus.com. That's CheetAH US.com. For the X-Air, it's also a little bit similar like that, X-Air LSA.com. So they both kind of identify themselves.